Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com, setting the record straight about climate. This video is about fake data and collusion in the Southern Hemisphere. The Climatic Research Unit at the University of East Anglia in the UK claims to have very precise temperature data for the Earth going back to 1850. This is the precision that they show for 1853, 3 digits past the decimal point. For example, in February of 1853, they say that the Earth's temperature anomaly was minus 0.617 degrees. That is incredible precision. And not only that, NASA says that all of the temperature data sets are in extremely close agreement. This is NASA, this is the Met Office, NOAA, and the Japanese Meteorological Agency. They all follow each other almost exactly. NASA says that all four of these data sets are calculated independently, and look at the very close agreement between them. The only way that could happen would be if the global temperature record was very complete and accurate. Let's look and see if that's the case. Specifically, let's look at the southern hemisphere, which is half of the Earth. This map shows where the Climatic Research Unit says they had stations in 1853. Remember the year when they said they had 3-digit precision? Well, look, there were no stations in South America and just a handful in North America. And let's look at the rest of the Earth. Wow, no stations in Africa, none in India, none in Australia, one station in Sumatra, and one station in New Zealand. So they were able to calculate southern hemisphere temperatures with 3-digit precision based on just 2 thermometers in 1853, and neither of those thermometers had complete records for the entire year. The Climatic Research Unit's claim that they know what Earth's temperature was in 1853 is absurd. Let's see if it's any better in 1880. Wow, just a few stations in South America, just about none in Africa, one in Sumatra, a few in Australia, and 3 in New Zealand. So they only had about a dozen Southern Hemisphere stations in 1880. That's still pretty bad. Let's see how it was in the year 1900. Wow, still just about no stations in South America or Africa. A few more in Australia, but only 2 in New Zealand. So the coverage in 1900 is not much better than earlier years. Let's see how it is now. Still huge missing areas in South America, Africa, big areas in Australia that aren't covered. So the question is, with so little data in the Southern Hemisphere, how did all four of these agencies come up with very precise agreement about the temperatures? Let's look now at how scientists viewed this problem in the past. In 1978, the New York Times reported, an international team of specialists has concluded from 8 indexes of climate there is no end in sight to the cooling trend of the last 30 years, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. Data from the Southern Hemisphere, particularly south of latitude 30 south, are so meager that reliable conclusions are not possible. This leaves us with only 2 possible explanations for how the 4 data sets came to be in such close agreement. One would be that they're colluding, and the other would be that they went back in time and took some new measurements. So far we've only looked at the very poor land data. Well, perhaps the ocean data is better. Here's a ClimateGate email from Phil Jones, who heads up the Climatic Research Unit. For much of the southern hemisphere between 40 and 60 south, the normals are mostly made up, as there is very little ship data there. The ocean data is even worse than the land data. Basically, the global temperature record is a farce. The only sensible conclusion that can be reached from all this is that the 4 groups are colluding, making up data, and committing fraud. Visit Toto on the web at realclimatescience.com. Him and Bart have been pulling back the curtain on junk science for a long time.